what's going on with Deshaun Watson as you and I are sitting here at 6 minutes after 1 Eastern time, the day before the deadline trade? What can you tell me?
I mean, honestly, Rich, I don't think this thing was ever that close, and things can happen fast. So, but I've felt for the last couple of weeks that this was really 50-50. And, to me, there are really three people who are sort of helping to control this process. One is Deshaun Watson. Clearly, he wants out of there. Two is Cal Mayer. He wants Deshaun Watson out of town. And then three is Nick Caserio, who is sort of I would say the least emotionally attached party in this whole thing, right? And he's the one who's sort of the caretaker of what the next 5 to 10 years of the Houston Texans look like. And I think Nick has been, I just think very reasoned about this whole thing and thinking, I'm not going to deal away my most valuable asset. The asset, like what happens with Deshaun Watson, will in all likelihood go a long way towards painting how his tenure as a general manager looks in Houston over the next 5-10 years, however long he's there. And so if you're Nick, you can't afford to go get 50 cents on the dollar for him. And if it means waiting until February or March for there to be more clarity legally, for there to be more clarity from the league, and for there to be more suitors, right? Because you think at that point, who knows? Maybe the Browns are involved. I mean, we know the 4 teams that have been monitoring it are the Panthers, the Dolphins, the Broncos, and the Eagles. Well, maybe we get to March and April. Maybe the Browns are involved. Maybe the Seahawks are involved. Maybe the Giants are involved. And so you could have a much better market then. And oh, by the way, what do you lose by waiting till then? I mean, if you wait until then, I guess the downside would be he's in your building, but you've already, I would argue, weathered the storm when it comes to that because he's been in the building for 3 months without playing. And any picks that you get back, you can't use till April anyway. So, I think Nick Caserio's put the thing right in that, he's just sort of saying to other teams, and I guess the bet would be that the legal situation is not going to get worse. That would be the one area where there's some risk. But, if you're Nick Caserio now, I think the best thing to do is to wait for the market to sort of rebound for Deshaun Watson. And I think there's a better chance of that happening by waiting than by just, doing something out of panic right now, unless, again, somebody on the other side of the table panics and offers full price for him.
All right. Now, obviously, Seattle gets thrown in there if Russ and they divorce and, other teams. Browns, that's a new one for me. I'll be honest. And I know that they've got to make a decision on Baker Mayfield. And Dak money would be something that even somebody who's been caping for Baker, would have an issue paying him. Like literally,
right.
If that's the sort of stance he's taken with the Cleveland Browns in some, in a long-term conversation, I'd be like, we need to reconfigure our relationship. Is that possible? Are you serious that the Browns would? Is that?
I mean, just think about it this way, okay? What was the B-level quarterback contract? I mean, it just never really existed. It's just like if you look at the quarterbacks, there's like the franchise type quarterbacks who are all at one point, like right at the top of the market, right? At one point it was 30, then it was 35, and now it's in the 40s, right? So there's that category of quarterback. And then there's like this precipitous fall to like guys making like $8, $9, $10 million a year. You know what I mean? So there's no real like B-level quarterback contract. And so, I think that's sort of how, over the years it's evolved where it's either a yes or a no question, right? Like either you think the guy's a franchise guy or you don't. And, like when teams have sort of dragged it out in the past, like the Buccaneers did with Jameis Winston, like the Titans did with Marcus Mariota, almost uniformly it leads to divorce. So I think that's sort of where the Browns and Baker are now, where the Browns have to answer that yes or no question, and I think they go one of two ways. Like I think they either go all in and Baker gets them to the playoffs and they're, all right, we're going to pay him, and maybe it's not what Josh Allen got, but it's in that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Or they do what the Rams or the Niners did last year, where they look at their quarterback and they say, it's a really good, but we need to be better. If we're going to pay full price for a franchise quarterback, we do it with a guy that we think is elite. And, it's a conversation, again, that the Niners had last year in January and February. It's the conversation the Rams had in January where those teams looked at it. And those teams, remember, those teams both, the Niners and the Rams, both had quarterbacks in their 20s who had taken them to the Super Bowl who had multiple years left on their contracts. And they moved off of those guys because they didn't think it was good enough. And so I think either the Browns decide to pay Baker, with a full franchise level contract, or, I think this thing is maybe hurtling towards where, the Rams and the Niners were with Goff and Garoppolo a year ago.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.